Hi, so today on my video I'm talking about the mind. So I I knew this, but I didn't know it. I read this book called Genius Foods, and you really have to read that book if you haven't read it yet, because it'll help you understand how important fats are for your brain. So the first part of this video I'm talking about what do you feed your mind physically. So your mind needs healthy fats. So there's a difference between saturated fats and unsaturated fats, and you have to understand that if you feed your body the good fats and your mind your mind will be really healthy. So there are ways to prevent foggy brain, or mental confusion. And obviously I'm going to tell you to meditate, right? Because that's what I say, meditate. But also you need to be aware you have to feed your brain. So if you feed your brain, you will look for healthy fats like avocados, avocado oil. And you always want, when you buy oils, you want to buy cold pressed oils, because then the oils weren't heated and they haven't damaged the nutrients of the oils. The oils were extracted using a method that where the substance wasn't heated, okay? Because heat actually alters the substance, however they produce it, right? So you look for cold pressed on the bottle. Extra virgin olive oil is great as well, and it's a healthy fat. And so some people that I do the health readings for, I see or sense that, or hear that their body will do well with a Mediterranean diet. And a Mediterranean diet has, it has a lot of olive oil in it. So other healthy fats, grass-fed butter. And always when you're buying the fats, you want to make sure that it was produced ethically, because then it vibrates higher. So if you work really high on your vibration, meditating, making sure you get lots of sleep, being kind, then you don't feed it very high vibration foods. You're kind of missing the point. It's best to try to buy the foods that vibrate high. And if you can't, all you have to do is hold those foods in your hands for 30 seconds or more. You just bless them. And so you could say, I thank the people who produce this food. I thank the farmers. I thank the transport people. I thank the vehicle that brought this food to me. You basically thank everyone who had a hand in producing that food. And when you bless the food for 30 seconds or more, it actually raises the vibration of that food. So you could have a food that wasn't produced ethically, but it's all you can afford, and that's okay. So what you do is you take the food and you just hold it in your hands and thank it, and that's a blessing. It's as simple as that. So I have an example about vibration food. So when I buy tomatoes and anything that I'm not going to peel, I want to buy it organic, okay? Because the idea is that you could peel the outer layer of the food, and then you remove if there's any pesticide residue or whatever. That's the idea. So I was looking for organic tomatoes, and I picked them up, and the life force, the vital force of those tomatoes weren't very good, even though they were organic. Then there were tomatoes right next to them, and they were really bright red, and they looked really good. And when I held them in my hands, they felt happy. So I'm a psychic, right? Psychic medium. So not only do I read people and animals, but I can actually read objects. I can read food, vehicles, you name it. So when I I decided which tomatoes I was going to buy. I purchased the ones that were not organic. They actually vibrated higher than the organic ones, which surprised me, because my mind has been programmed, right? Organic, organic, organic. And then I go and I can feel that the ones that were produced, with pesticides, herbicides, actually vibrated higher. So it was I could feel whoever had been growing those tomatoes really loved those tomatoes. And it's that emotional energy from that person that was poured into the plant. So that's an idea, right? To be mindful of how you feel if you grow a garden, and how you feel about it when you're weeding it. Are you doing it out of love, or are you kind of cranky? Because that food will take on your energy. So feed your mind, right? Healthy fats. If you don't know what healthy fats are, read that book, Genius Foods, because it's really good. So you can also think about your mind. So you're paying attention to your mind, right? And patterns of behavior. So we have three parts of our mind. So we have the superconscious mind, that's your higher self, that's up there, right? It's an energy. And then we have conscious mind, which is the mind that we use during our waking day. So we wake up, conscious mind is awake, and it's ready to do whatever we want to do, right? It helps us decide. Conscious mind is creative, so it likes to create, it likes to be in control, it's quite nosy and annoying. It's always thinking. So conscious mind is not always good. Sometimes it can be not so good because that's where our ego lies, okay? So we have to be aware of when we're using our conscious mind that we want our conscious mind to be nice and helpful and productive. So how can we do that? So there's something called brain gym. I'm going to show you in a minute. But then the third part of our mind is our subconscious. So our subconscious mind is between 90 and 95% of who we are, of our mind, right? And then conscious mind is between 5 and 10%. Now it varies on people. One client that I read for, her conscious mind was responsible for 7% of her entire mind, and then the rest, 93%, was subconscious. So her subconscious mind was quite strong. Some people, subconscious mind is about 90% of who you are, and then 10% is conscious. So if you understand how powerful the subconscious mind is, and if you can't understand why you keep doing the silly things over and over again, it's because it's stored in your subconscious mind. So there's a way to reprogram your subconscious mind through affirmations. So affirmations are really great when we're in that restful state, right? We're in hypnosis or meditation. So we can download those affirmations into our subconscious mind, and that will actually change our patterns of behavior. It's really cool. So there's different ways you can do it. So one way you can do it is just before you go to sleep at night, like the last 20 minutes you're laying in bed, just lay on your back, and you have, say, maybe you have 3 affirmations of what you want in your life, and they're always, the affirmations you use are I am statements. So you could say, when I was really conscious and mindful of how I wanted my body to be when I started working out at the gym, I would say my affirmations, I would say I am lean and muscular. Or I'd say I am slim and muscular. So usually lean, because I wanted to have a leaner body, because I had a few pounds last year. I'm still working on it. So I would say those over and over and over again. And then I would add in another affirmation that I felt I wanted to reprogram my mind so it wouldn't feel like it did. Okay, so if you are shy or not confident, you would choose an affirmation like I am confident, or I am worldly, like that means you know a lot about everything, right? Or I am wise, I am efficient. So anything that's not working in your life, you take an affirmation and you make it the opposite of what you are into what you want to be, right? So I am statements, and they're really powerful. So also I want to remind you to be mindful of how you have self-talk, or how you talk about other people, because usually if you talk about other people in a not so nice way, it's actually a reflection of how you feel about yourself. And I know that might not sound true, but judgment is really difficult to get away from, and I found that I had to reprogram myself after I left the education world, because like I said, the education world is based on judgment. We're always evaluating people. We always have to put a number on things, and it's you when you've done that for a long time, you're programmed that way. And so when you step away from that, especially if you have a kid, you don't want to evaluate that kid. You don't want to put a judgment on them. You just want to love your kid, right? Because you want that kid to feel loved, and no matter how dysfunctional they are or whatever. But our mind is so powerful. That subconscious mind is who we are. So we have to really be mindful of how we talk about ourselves, how we talk about other people, and how we process things. So some people, I notice, they have to go away and think about things for a while, and other people can act on things right away. So it's how their mind works and how ready they are to deal with things. So our conscious mind, subconscious, very powerful. Now our superconscious mind, that's a very, very, very amazing part of our mind. And oh my goodness, should you ever have the chance to sit down and be quiet and meet your higher self or your superconscious mind, it is wonderful because you get to see your true vitality, your true presence, your essence of who you really are. And often when we're born into like a human body and then we become like, a child, a sibling, a parent, a whatever we are, like at this time in our lives right now, we have been programmed and we forget that we are actually, I know this might sound religious to people or whatever, but we're created in the likeness of God from that spiritual self. So that's why I talk about spirit as being an important part of who we are, because it's part of what your heart wants and needs to be spiritual, and however you choose to do it. But our mind craves that too, and our mind craves similarities, like someone that you can bounce ideas off, whether you go to church, it's nice to talk to someone who goes to your church, or whether you are, spiritual Buddhist, whatever. Your mind craves interaction on the same level, and so we seek people out who have a like mindset so we can talk about these ideas and we can feel safe about these ideas, because if we don't, we generally won't talk about it. I laugh because I worked at this one school, and everybody would be talking, and then they'd look at me and they turn to me and say, "And what do you think?" Because they knew my ideas were different, but they liked to hear it, so they laughed at me too, but I had just an insight that a lot of people didn't have. And that happened after my Reiki 2 course that I took, and then I moved from Thailand to a different country, and I worked with a lot of Americans in American school, and they actually were interested in my take of things, because by that time I had experienced quite an unusual lifestyle. While I lived in Thailand, it was very different, Buddhist, and they were very they were accepting of everything, almost. I'm not gonna say that they were accepting of everything, but it was really nice to be in that Buddhist setting, because it really fit my mindset. I really liked it. I like to go to the Thai Wats, and you would, outside of the Wat, you would get a bundle of, there's like prayer sticks, and you take one and go in, and it would have a significance. And I love that. I thought that was really so interesting to me, and so it was feeding my mind. Whereas before, when I lived in Canada, I didn't have that spiritual part of me wasn't fulfilled, because there wasn't anything like that around me. So the nice thing about when I lived in Thailand, that part of my mind was satisfied, because I got to, not only did I get to see it, but I got to experience it. So here's an example of how beautiful it was. Oh my goodness, I went to one of the ladies in our office. She was Thai. She was getting married to our principal's son. It was so nice. And we got to go to the wedding, and the wedding was in a Thai house. So when we walked in, there were some Buddhist monks, and they were all seated in a line, and they had a string, and they were blessing the ceremony. It was so beautiful, and I could feel the energy, how positive it was, and they were humming, and we got to partake in that, and it was a wonderful experience, and I was so grateful for that, because it really fit in. I feel like what I needed spiritually, so that's part of our mind. I mean, spirit too, but our mind, and it was. It's actually hard to explain, but it's pretty cool. If you ever get the chance to partake in something like that, I hope you will, because it just really opens your mind. Like, oh, this is how they should do it somewhere else. So we have our programming downloaded into our subconscious mind, and that could be from this life, but it also could be from other lives too. So if you have a pattern of behavior and you don't understand why, here's an example. You keep attracting the same kind of relationships, and you don't really know why, but you notice it's a pattern, so you can step out of that pattern and say, well, I don't really want to be around these kind of people anymore. You have hit the nail on the head, that pattern behavior was stored in your subconscious mind, whether it was from early in your life. We're programmed from like 0 to 7 years, and then Dr. Bruce Lipton mentions this, that we're basically in a hypnosis state from the moment we're born to about the age of 7. So everything that goes on around us, we see it and we think that's normal. So then, if we don't step out of that pattern, and we don't see that, like, we have to look and decide what we want our life to be like. And so, I mean, when I was growing up, my dad was not always very nice, and I was scared of him, whatever. So I had this idea that men were scary, and that wasn't true. So when I was dating my second boyfriend, I saw how nice his dad was, and I realized that not all men were scary. He was a really nice man. He made me laugh. He was funny, Catholic. He used to tell silly stories about when they were in Catholic school. And I realized I didn't have to hold on to that programming anymore, because not all dads and not all fathers were like that. So that the presence of that person helped me realize that that's not true. Okay, so there could be times in your life where you realize you have this programming, and then someone comes into your life and shows you that that's not true. And your ego might say to you, oh, be careful, this person's just like the other one. But actually their behavior is showing you that they're not. And then, of course, conversely, someone could be showing you their self, and like there's a word for it. It's like their outward self, and there's something kind of wrong. They're not really that person. So they could be showing you signs that something doesn't really match, and your intuition will tell you, okay, your mind will tell you, right, third eye will tell you something's not quite right here. And usually that first impression, it's right. So learn to listen to your mind, listen to your intuition that tells you, oh, this is safe, or oh, this is dangerous. So just be an observer, and the best way to be an observer is to do this. And then just watch people's behavior, and then you'll see, because there's a saying that, and we learned this in teaching, but also through public speaking as well, that actions speak louder than words. So someone could say something, but they do something that's totally opposite. So they're programmed to say one thing, but yet do another. And so you can tell that their speech doesn't match their actions. So their actions are telling you who they really are, right? Yeah, didn't have that plan, but it just came up. So we have feelings and emotions that are part of our programming. And when you look at your life, you have to decide who you are, right? And this happens, I think, when we age. We kind of wake up one day and say, oh, this is so not working for me. So I found that happened to me like around 20, 30, and 40. So like every decade, I would kind of I would evaluate my life and say, oh, this is so not where I want to be. This is not who I want to be with, or this is not what I want to be doing. And I would make a change in my life. But it would get to the point where I felt uncomfortable with the way I was living my life, because it wasn't true to who I wanted to be, and it didn't match the kind of the ideas and the goals that I had set out. So I would find that I would have to, either if I was with someone I didn't belong with, I'd have to leave and go my own way. So you have to think about what is driving you, fear or love. Now you might think, well, fear or love, I mean, those are emotional, that's in your heart space. What does it have to do with your mind? Well, your mind is programmed to, actually, it was either, I think it was Bruce Lipton or Dr. Joe Dispenza. I think Joe Dispenza said this, that our mind is addicted to fear. So when something scares us, or when something is negative or something like that, we're addicted to it. And so we go into like fear overdrive, right? So it takes quite a bit to reprogram our minds to not be fearful and to come from a place of love. And some people have that naturally. They're just really loving, kind, trusting people, whereas other people come from fear. And the only one thing I think that why they come from fear is that they have suffered, physical, mental, or verbal abuse at the hands of another person, and that would definitely put them into the fear mode. And they might not even be aware of it. It might have happened when they were an infant. But a really amazing method you can use to find out what causes your negative programming is to go into a meditation and you ask your mind, show me what this is about, and you'll see your mind will go to either a past life or it'll go to an earlier time in your life. And I've done that, and my mind has done two things. It's gone to past lives, but it's also gone to when I was younger and I saw some things that happened when I was a baby. Like, who would even think you could do that? But you can. That's how powerful your mind is as a supercomputer, and that's the subconscious mind, and it stores all the information you ever need to know about yourself. Your body, and I taught you this in one of the videos, your body will actually tell you what foods your body wants and needs and which ones will not match it. So that's amazing. You can do that with your mind, right? So you say, you stand quietly and ground yourself and close your eyes, and you tell your body to show you yes, then you tell your body to show you a no, and then you tell your body to show you maybe, and then you take that food in your hand and you say, is it in my best interest to eat some of the food that's in this package? And if you get a no, well, your body can't use that, right? So that programming that is in your mind, and that when we muscle test, we're testing with it's like everything, the collective consciousness, because the collective consciousness is like the consciousness that is high vibration. So it's a very healthy tool to have, a very useful tool to have, that can show you what your body wants and needs, okay? You can even do that with books. You can do that with a oracle deck or a tarot deck if it's in your best interest to purchase that deck and use it, okay? And that's really helpful if you don't know what to do or what to buy or whatever. Like, even if you need to go anywhere, you can muscle test if you're not sure. And then if you do lots of muscle testing, it'll actually get to the point where, like, when I reach for something, I hear no. So I'm like, okay, I won't eat that, or I won't put that in my food, or whatever. So I wanted to show you something that's really cool. So there's this thing called Brain Gym. And Brain Gym I'm not sure who did it, who created it, but it's really neat, and they use it in schools. And I learned about it, I don't know, I read it in a newspaper article, years ago. And then I went on YouTube because I want to see what this Brain Gym is all about. So the whole idea about Brain Gym is just to get people moving, right? And then you cross the, right side of my body over to the left side of the body in like a movement and a pattern. So when you do that, you're actually balancing the left and right hemispheres of your brain. Yeah. And so you have a balanced brain. Because for most people, the left and the right hemisphere don't work in unison. They're like separate. And when I was a teacher, or when I was doing my education courses, we were taught that. Left brain people, right brain people. But what about balanced brain people? So this is what you do. So you go like, so this is my right hand, and I'll put it over to my left knee, and then like that. So you can go over like that. You can also do it with the feet, with it behind you, if that's too much work. So as you're doing that, you can reprogram, this is cool, you can reprogram your brain and your subconscious mind so that those affirmations that you want to use, you want to download them into your body, into your mind, so they become part of your patterns of behavior. You do them while you do the Brain Gym. So you're like, warming up. And so I'd say, I'm lean. And then I'll breathe. And then I'm muscular. I'm confident. I don't have to worry about that. But you're crossing over, right? So I'll step back a little bit. There we go. Knee is up. I know I'm wearing black today. You can't even see because it's like a blob. So do that. And what I do is I'll put a timer on for 5 minutes. And I use whatever I am affirmations in there. And you will, so if you do it for about 5 minutes, it depends. You can muscle test for how long you need to do it for. But what I want you to do after you do those affirmations, while you're doing this, and go onto YouTube and look at some Brain Gym exercises, because then you'll understand. So people use them in the morning in schools to help the kids balance their brains and get them like intellectually ready for doing schoolwork, okay? Because our schoolwork brain is different than, say, physical activity brain or whatever. or recreation brain. So if you do that and you say the affirmations out loud and breathe after you say each affirmation, and the reason you do that is when you breathe, you're actually drawing that affirmation into your physical being. So I learned that in a course that I took called Conscious Awareness. You you muscle test to see which affirmations you need to use from this book called the Rekindled Ancient Wisdom book. And then you say the affirmation and you breathe to anchor it into your solar plexus. So this is a really healthy tool, and you know, you might think it sounds silly, but you need to try this stuff because it can be very powerful if you do it, repeat a pattern. So you could try it in the morning for 5 minutes, in the evening for 5 minutes. And then what I want you to do is I want you to muscle test to see if you've actually anchored in those affirmations. So I go, say whatever, right? And if you're like around people, you don't want to say your affirmations, you can say them in your mind. But when you say them out loud, they're more powerful than if you keep them in, okay? So, and I heard, like, you know, with the ones that I'm saying, no. So they said to me, do them for 5 minutes and then muscle test. So then you would say, did I anchor in the affirmations that I've been working with? And, you know, you get a yes or no. And if you get a no, then you're to do them again and then repeat it for the same amount of time. But, you know, I'm getting for the people who are watching this, between 5 and 7 minutes is going to be more than enough time if you do it twice a day. So if people say that, you know, oh, I'm doomed, I'm just like my mom or my dad or people in my family, that's not actually true. It is if you keep saying that, right? Because you've created a negative affirmation that has become part of your mindset. So in order to switch from that, you say to yourself, I am who I want to be. You can basically recreate yourself, because Dr. Bruce Lipton said most of who we are has been produced by our environment. And genetics causes, you know, like hair color, likeness in families, noses, things like that. Those are physical genetics. But our patterns of behavior were shown to us at a very early age. So if you have a pattern of behavior that's dysfunctional, look to see what part of it you don't like and then decide to change it by doing the opposite. So you know, for example, maybe you don't use the words that you want to use, so you have to be aware that you have to replace those words with other words that are, say, maybe kind. Maybe it's like negative self-talk or negative talk about other people. And I had a dear friend say that when you talk about people, you are meant to talk about them like they're in the room or they're right beside you, because that's a sign of love, kindness, and respect. And I totally agree with that. And so I think, you know, if we're more mindful of the comments that we make about ourselves and about others, even if you're joking about yourself and it's not very kind, it's probably not the best thing to say, because your cells hear that stuff and they react to it. So when I've talked about in one of my videos, I think it was on an Instagram video, we talked about fat. And when people say, oh, I'm fat, that's not a good thing to say about yourself. You say, I'm larger than I want to be, or I'm getting smaller, or I aim to, work off this excess weight or whatever. But just really be mindful of how you talk about your body, because if you say, I am fat, then you are just programming yourself to stay that size or to have body fat. And so, I mean, obviously we're not fat, because that's only a percentage of our body, and women have a higher percentage of body fat than men. That's why our bodies are so different, right? Because we need that body fat. It has to do with childbearing. So if we want to reprogram our body, then we would say things, when we do the brain gem, we say things that will help change our mindset and make sure we anchor those affirmations into our body by checking in to see if we actually have accepted those affirmations. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I think I really enjoy making them, and I really appreciate you all watching the YouTube videos that I make. Thanks a lot. So the next video will be talking about the body.